This brief video is going to get you started on constructing an external factor evaluation matrix. At this point, you should have had your external opportunities and threats submitted and returned after I've reviewed them to ensure that they really are external opportunities and threats. These are things that affect the entire industry, not just your particular company. Once you've received, the feedback that all is good, then we can go ahead and start working on the matrix. So what I do is I have listed my opportunities and then my threats. I have 3 columns: weight, rating, and the weighted. Now this is all included in the handout on the EFE, and it's also included with examples in your textbook. But what I'm going to do now is start weighting each of these factors based on how important they are to realizing success in the industry. You are the expert on your industry and your firm, so you have to know that based on what you read, you need to use your subjective opinion to determine what that weight is. I'm just going to go through and get us started. The weights have to be anywhere from 0.00 or if it's a 0.00, it wouldn't even be on the list because it's not relevant enough, up to 0.99 or 1.0. The total of all weights has to equal 1.0. So one of the things we could do right now is just go down to the cell where your total is going to be, the last field under your weight, and just click Auto Sum and highlight all of the fields under weight and then hit Enter. So as we proceed with entering these weights, this will be a running total. The first few times you go through, you're not going to come up with 1.0. You're going to have to get a start and then kind of do some tweaking or fine-tuning to get it so that it does equal 1.0. The point you need to remember is factors that are more important to realizing success are going to be weighted higher than those that are less important to realizing success. Let's go ahead and start with low interest rates. Low interest rates, this is pretty significant to realizing success in this industry because the capital investment and research and development is huge. So there's going to be a lot of borrowing. Maybe I'm going to give this a 0.08. Notice that my running total updated to 0.08. The increase in cost of electricity. This is an opportunity for the solar industry. This is a company that produces solar panels and solar energy generation. It's called SunPower, and as we know, as the cost of electricity goes up, people are going to start looking for an alternative. Increasing cost of electricity means that the demand for solar is going to increase. I think this is maybe a little more important than the low interest rate, so I'm going to maybe give it a 0.10. Advancement in solar technology and research. The entire industry is benefiting from the testing and the research and the advancements in this industry. That's a great opportunity. Maybe I will give this one a 0.10 also. Increase in coal regulation. As we regulate coal a lot more because of the pollutant effect, the demand for solar and other alternatives is going to increase. Maybe I feel that this is very important to the solar industry, so I'm going to give it a little bit higher of a weight. I think maybe it's a little more important to realizing success than increasing cost of electricity and advancements in solar tech. So I'll give that a 0.12. Increasing disposable income. The economy is improving, disposable income is increasing, therefore consumer spending and profits increase as well. I think that's fairly significant. I don't know that it's any more significant than low interest rates. I'm just going to give it a 0.08 for now. Now let's go down and look at our threats. Growing trend of wind energy. We've seen more and more windmills, wind farms, and that's a competition to solar. And it's a pretty significant competition right now, especially depending on where you're located. So maybe I'm going to give that a 0.10. Limited number of customers. Boy, this is a threat. Not a lot of people have solar, and the question is, can they afford to get it set up? Now, increasing disposable income will help with that, but the fact is we have a pretty narrow market right now, and that might be how you word your threat if you have a similar situation. Because there aren't a lot of people in the market right now, maybe I think that is very significant, and it's weighted much higher than perhaps increasing disposable income. So I'm going to give that 0.15. Intense competition. There aren't a whole lot of competitors, but each one is pretty large, and therefore they're going to influence what we can charge for a price and where the reach is. Maybe I'll give that one a 0.12. Reliance on third-party suppliers. Here we have not a narrow customer base, but now we have a supplier base that's pretty narrow. This industry is still developing, and in order to gain the materials and the technology necessary, we have very few vendors to select from. Maybe, given my research, I think it's fairly significant, but remember, this is relative. I'm comparing it to other threats and opportunities. Maybe I think that it's pretty important to realizing success, but perhaps it's not as important to realizing success as the intense competition is. Maybe I'll give it a 0.11. Lack of economical sustainability. Many solar systems, particularly in the northern climate, the cost to create this is pretty significant, and the benefit, because we have less sunlight, isn't that great. So for many people, the cost is greater than the benefit, and we're just not going to, it's not going to make economic sense to do this. So I'm going to give this one a 0.09. Decreasing subsidies for the purchase of solar infrastructure. Before our government had the major budget issues, it had many subsidies available for this investment in solar, and that's because our government wants to see more solar or renewable energy. So there were funds available to help cover the operational costs, so the out-of-pocket cost was lower. That meant that it would make economic sense to go ahead and do this. This is fairly significant, but maybe not as significant as the economical sustainability. So I'll give it a 0.07. When I look at my total, I see that we're at 1.12. I need to see this be at 1.0. So now I'm just going to go through and ratchet down a little bit. I see that I have low interest rates at 0.8 and disposable income, increasing disposable income at 0.07 or 0.8. Maybe I'm just going to make those 0.7. And since I ratcheted those down, I see that I'm now at 1.10. I'm just going to do some revaluation. Maybe the increase in coal regulation, maybe I'm going to reconsider that and say, yes, it's very significant, but I don't know if 0.12 is appropriate. Maybe I should give it 0.10. And the intense competition, maybe I say I'm going to keep that where it's at. The limited number of customers, this is the highest one, but maybe I could knock it down to 0.14. You see I'm getting closer to 1.07. The ones that are 0.11, let me take a look at that. I have it at 0.11. Maybe I should bring this down to 0.10. And maybe the intense competition. Perhaps given what's going on and the fact that we've seen some changes, maybe I'm going to reevaluate that and we'll be at 0.11. Growing wind. Maybe I overweighted that just compared to the other factors. What I could do is take all of my 0.1s and just knock them down a little bit. That's an option. For this one, increase in cost of electricity, growing trend of wind, increase in coal regulation, all of those are dealing with alternatives. I think I'll make all of those 0.09. Now remember, I'm going to do a lot of research and really evaluate this, but the goal is to bring this down to 1.0. Lack of economical sustainability. Maybe I'm just going to bring that down to 0.08. Now remember, there's no right answer. This is what you have learned based on your research. You're the expert, but I am putting some serious thought into how important are these compared to the others. Maybe the number of customers or low interest rates. Maybe because we expect them to be low for a long time, I'm going to make that 0.06, and now I'm at 1.0. So I have my weights distributed according to the relevance. In the next column, what we're going to do, again, you can only do this after you've done research, and you've done a lot of research in your phase 1. And then when you submitted your factors, you had to include a couple sentences explaining it. Many of you really provided a great deal of information about how the company has responded to each of these. This is how you're going to rate them. They're going to get a 1, 2, 3, or 4. If the response by your company has been superior to low interest rates, you're going to give it a 4. Maybe it's locked in some financing. Maybe it's issued bonds at a low interest rate and they're fixed. If it has acted above average, you're going to give it a 3. If it's below average, you're going to give it a 2. And if the response has been poor, you're going to give it a 1. So with low interest rates, let's just say that they've acted in an above average manner. I'll give it a 3. And the next one, I think I told you use 2 for a below average response. That's an error. Use 2 for an average response. Increasing cost of electricity. How have they responded to this? Have they started marketing more? Have they started expanding more? Are they selling more? Is their distribution changing? If they have acted in a superior fashion, I'm going to give them a 4. Advancements in solar technology and research. Have they responded well to this? Have they taken advantage of these advantages or these advancements? Again, if it's a superior response, I give it a 4. If it's above average, I give it a 3. Maybe I'll give it a 3. Have they responded to increase in coal regulation? This is a huge opportunity for everyone in this industry. Let's say they haven't been responding well to this at all. The response has been poor. I'll give it a 1. Increasing disposable income. Have they started marketing to middle income people because the income's been going up and their distribution outlets? If I find information that supports they've responded in, the same way everyone else has, I'll give them a 2 for average. Growing trend of wind energy. How have they responded? Let's assume my research says they have responded poorly. I'll give it a 1. Limited number of customers. How have they responded to this? Average 2, above average 3, superior 4. Maybe they have responded in a superior fashion. I'll give them a 4. How about the competition? Maybe they bought a competitor out. Maybe they've responded in a superior fashion. I'll give them a 4. Reliance on third-party suppliers. Maybe they bought a supplier. I'll give them a 4 there. Lack of economical sustainability. Maybe they just really have been responding like everyone else. And then the decreasing subsidies. How have they responded to that? Perhaps it's poorly. I'll give it a 1. Now, one of the last parts we do then is we're going to multiply the weight times the rating. So I will use the equal sign. I will click on the rating. I will use my asterisk to tell Excel that I'm going to multiply, and then I'm going to select rating, and there is my weighted average. And then what I'm going to do is just come right down and do the whole thing. Personally, I don't like these zeros, so what I'm going to do is highlight those and click clear contents to get rid of them. It's just a pet peeve I have. So now I want to get the total weighted average. I'm down in the very last cell under my last weighted. I'm going to click Auto Sum. I'm going to highlight all the cells I want to total together. And there we go. There it is, my total EFE score for this company. It identified how important the opportunities and threats are externally, of course, to the industry. And then the rating was how has the company responded to them. When I total the score, I see they're at 2.77. Now 2.77 is a score. Again, you'll need to read this in your documentation, in your textbook. But 2.5 means that overall the company is responding in an average manner. 4.0, the closer you are to 4, the organization is responding in an outstanding manner. And 1.0, the closer you are to 1, the firm is not capitalizing on opportunities or avoiding threats. So your analysis will include not just this, but then explanation as to why it was weighted the way it was, and then also how the company has responded. Thank you.